In 2026, if you're not connecting your data warehouse to AI, you are not competing against the rest of the pack.
Welcome to AI and PE, the future of value creation. I'm Kyle Roemer, head of US Data and AI at Accordion. Today's episode kicks off a new series of short, sharp conversations with Adam Silverman. Adam has been building custom AI tools since before most people knew what an AI agent was. And more importantly, he operates at the rare intersection of deep hands-on AI expertise and the real practical needs of private equity. In this episode, Adam looks ahead to 2026 and what PE leaders actually need to know about AI right now. Let's get into it. Adam, before we get into predictions, you spend a lot of time working with leaders who are trying to turn AI ambition into some real outcomes. I think you've looked at over 400 different types of agents and technologies out there. Like, where are we right now?
I think we're at a point now where anybody, doesn't matter if you're a business user or it doesn't matter what level of organization you're in, you can actually start leveraging AI to automate a lot of the work that you do. I think 2-3 years ago when we started building agents, it was something that was on exclusively for engineers, or something that was types of products that were a lot more technical in nature. And we've gone to a point now where just about anybody can actually get started building really reliable agents and start automating a lot of the work that they do every day.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, it's so interesting. Like obviously the use cases have proliferated. Technology's gotten a lot better. LLMs are getting bigger.
I've seen how these platforms can actually impact businesses all the way from the ground up. And one of my biggest recommendations is sticking through the entire episode, understanding how your company can actually start using AI agents and figuring out ways, even if they're just small today, that you can start incorporating AI both in your personal life and also in the workflows you do every day.
If you think about like what you're forecasting for this year, like what's one thing you're like, this is going to be a shift this year that you see either in adoption and types of use cases and types of activities that happen?
Every analyst, every associate within private equity firms are going to be using agents. A couple of years ago, when we started talking to these firms about basically the work that they were doing, it was kind of hard to actually take people away from their job to go and actually develop these types of products. Now with tools like Claude Code and with Claude Cowork, just about anybody can actually get started building very incredible automations and can almost have like a virtual assistant or like a co-pilot with them 24/7 that can automate a lot of the busy work that they're doing every day.
Yeah, it's super interesting. Like a lot of mundane manual activities can now be done by agents. So like you actually have a bunch of agents just operating kind of in your general workflow. Where do you think things go in terms of, there's one thing like getting answers to stuff, right? Like we're used to chat interfaces, we're used to dealing with agents, but agents actually taking action. Do you think there's going to be a leap there this year or are we there already?
I think in 26, we'll see agents shift from answering to acting. So instead of just saying, hey, here's a response, here's a PDF of a report we did, it might actually be able to go take action on that report and actually go figure out what's the next step in order to actually complete a goal. Using Cowork now, since it released, it's incredible to see actually how you can start taking action directly within Claude. So I think this is something that previously, if I want to go build an automation, I used to have to go to a platform like Zapier or N8N, and I had to link together all these little nodes and try and understand actually the type of automation I want to build. Now in natural language, I just talk to my computer using WhisperFlow. I just describe the type of automation I want to build, and automatically it's built for me. And automatically logs into my N8N and comes up with a full plan on how to connect everything. So it's taking a lot of I think the thought process away from building out these automations, which is exciting. And I think now every level of the organization is going to feel this. It's just a matter of your teams wanting to actually apply this technology, trying to lean into how they can use it. And that kind of task list, that daunting task list that everyone has, saying, hey, here are the things I want to get done this week. I think the best thing I recommend is people just put that directly into Claude or one of these other LLMs and seeing how far it can get without, writing a single line of code.
Yeah, I find it so interesting. You haven't been around Adam in person. Like the amount of time you're talking to your computer is super, super interesting. And that's the paradigm I think we're going to be living in, just voice activated engagement versus what we're used to, which is just typing.
For sure. I mean, I don't type anymore. If you get an email from me, it's likely, dictated completely.
Adam, what do you mean you don't type anymore?
So I use WhisperFlow, but there's a bunch of different tools people can use. But it's just, I act at the speed of my thoughts, and it's kind of amazing to think through. With WhisperFlow, I can really just talk to my computer. When it comes to prompting, I just talk to ChatGPT, I talk to Claude, I talk to Perplexity, and instantly I get results. And I think this is something that's a big paradigm shift in 26, is that you don't necessarily need to be typing anymore. I think this typing is an old paradigm. In the same way that people went from handwriting to typing, and that was a huge innovation. I think the big innovation 26 and beyond is people are going to stop typing completely, or at least limit the amount of typing that they're doing. I think that I use typing when I really want to refine what I've dictated, but oftentimes you can get very far just through dictation using these LLMs to actually analyze what you're saying, consolidate it, and then actually structure it. So my favorite tool right now is Whisperflow for that. But I recommend all firms to be, to think about like what is like the way people are going to be interacting with their computers going into this year. And one of the cool things about Whisperflow is you can actually whisper to your computer. So you don't need to be screaming at it. If you're in a busy office and, maybe it's one of these open concepts offices, people can still be dictating to their computer. So it's exciting to see. And I think it's beautiful because now you can actually act on like at the same speed of your thoughts. I think previously, when you think about your fingers as actuators trying to actually type, you can maybe do 50, 60, 70 words a minute if you're super fast. With dictation, you can do 150 or 200 words per minute, which just really sets you apart from everybody else.
Yeah, I love that. It's so interesting. And we'll see how that evolves. What do you believe are going to matter kind of the most in this next wave of tooling and products?
I hope 2026 is the year that no one has to make an Excel model or PowerPoint ever again. I know we go blunt with that. Like that's how I truly feel. But
yeah, I love that.
I think a lot of the busy work surrounding making PowerPoints and Excel files will get automated, and people are going to actually have to now use their brain to come up with very interesting ideas surrounding the models, surrounding the presentations. Because a lot of the busy work to actually go and build like the inputs and the outputs will get automated. I never want to see a PowerPoint. Like I hate making PowerPoints. I think this is something that like I'm hoping 26 is the year that like agents will be able to fully make PowerPoints. And there's a lot of great companies doing this. You see Gamma, you see Canva is obviously making big strides in this. And then, I think like natively integrating into PowerPoint, this is going to be something that's, Google's been doing immense work on this, on the slides front. And now I think it's time for like PowerPoint to really level up and say like, let's figure out all the formatting things. Let's, before it goes out to an MD to review, like do a spell check on the whole thing, make sure all the font's correct, make sure all the grammar is correct, make sure that, the spacing's all correct. Like these are the little things I think take so much time away from like your analysts or associates actually doing like true work. And this is stuff that should be automated. There's no reason that like humans should be still manually reviewing these types of things.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. Like the age of like slideware and having to put these decks together, you think it'd be behind us. It's not behind us at all because a lot of the tools just aren't quite there yet. But I'm hopeful 26. Slideware is one of the next final frontiers of adoption in the enterprise, which is a funny thing to say, but just, a bit of a reality we're in right now.
I think actually the funny part is that I think there's a lot from the previous wave that a lot of companies that we're speaking to haven't necessarily even like gone full-fledged in using. So when I think through like products like Whisperflow and Superhuman, like these are my like day zero, every company needs to be using them. It allows you to just be more productive in the work you do. I think there's a lot of basically integrations into legacy platforms that I think are going to be the biggest winners in 26.
Yeah.
So as I think through like Claude for Excel, like it's insane. We'll take a screenshot of a financial model and it'll go recreate it automatically. And this is something that like you would have had an analyst go and do. And now this is something that's like completely automated. When it works in front of you, like my mind is blown when I see it working. I think a lot of busy work going into 26, my fingers are crossed as the year like a lot of stuff will get automated. I don't think Excel is going anywhere in 2026, but I think the way people use Excel is going to change completely with AI native plugins.
Where do you see a lot of AI ambition either succeeding or stalling this year with finance teams?
So I think you're going to have these like what I would call like Luddites on one side who just refuse to adopt new technology. And then you're going to have these like innovative firms that I think are just going to run laps around them. And I don't even think like you're not even going to be competing in the same kind of field anymore. You're going to have these like super lean AI native teams that can just go push, are using Claude for Excel, are building models faster, are able to, using custom agents that they build to get outcomes a lot quicker. And then you're going to have these Luddite firms that are still, for lack of better words, maybe making a reference back to accounting, like using like T-charts, like, trying to like, add up totals and stuff like that. And I think that there are going to be this breakout firm, and maybe, these were firms that might have had trouble maybe raising their funds or something along those lines, but are now running these like super, super lean shops of like 10 plus people that are just doing laps around firms that might have like 100 people. And just because everyone's leaning in AI native from day zero. And to be honest, I think a lot of these firms actually it's actually a lucky position to be in. If you don't have legacy technology, they have to like rip out, and you don't have to go retrain everybody, and like do like change management on, what people are currently doing. I think you're actually in a very like advantageous spot. And I think that this is going to be very interesting to see like how these vintages actually compare when you have these like AI firms at day zero, just like, okay, here's every AI tool possible. our AI budget for, software is the same as like what we're paying employees potentially. And this is going to be like, I think the most clear change going into 26 is that a lot of there will be these breakout winners. And I'm really excited to kind of see how they emerge, what tech they're using, and how they're able to automate a lot of the work that maybe even like a year or two ago, people would have never thought was automatable.
Yeah. I mean, it's so interesting, like just speaking on the private equity side, like newer funds are starting out really asking the question of like, I'm going to have a team of agents and some really experienced investors, and that's going to be our strategy versus the traditional model. But yeah, the whole like relearning kind of behavior, like those are tough things. That change management piece is tough. But I'm a believer this year, like the Excel first work should be heavily augmented with AI at a minimum. And then you're going to find a bunch of firms that are building these things more automatically with agents.
For sure. And like, I think the one that's like 25 was very clear, like research can be done with agents. And I think like, as we think through like financial research, this is something I think is completely going to be automated. You will have, a person who, is going to take ownership. It's similar to like an engineer using like Claude Code to go and develop like a code base. You still have to have an engineer who proves it and says like, hey, this is good enough for us to go and deploy into production. You're going to still have like a research person who's going to have to look through research, make sure that everything's accurate. But when it comes to like sourcing information, when it comes to pulling relevant fact, when it goes to like, doing overviews, the agents are just so much better. I kick off Claude Code multiple times per day or Claude Deep Research, and I see, it's going and accessing 400 to 1,000 websites sometimes. And you think about it, like you'd have a human analyst really spending their entire day going and sifting through all those websites. Now within 15 minutes, you can get a report that cites everything, tells you exactly where, all the data is. And this is something that like, the cost of knowledge is just coming down so cheap that I'm really excited to kind of see how this pushes even the frontiers of what's possible today.
Yeah. I love that. I mean, I think like we're becoming in a lot of ways like quality control and almost like architects versus maybe the work that we traditionally would have done, which is, I think, super, super cool. I mean, one of the things that's existed like forever, Adam, is like companies creating dashboards on top of their data and data living kind of everywhere. What do you see now with some of these models and these tools that may sit on top of these platforms?
In 2026, if you're not connecting your data warehouse to AI, you are not competing against the rest of the pack. One thing to think through is I think the models are very good at what I would call like maybe using some computer terms like RAM, like short-term memory. And I think that when you try these models out, you'll even notice that sometimes they run into limitations in terms of the context window and how much they can pull into context. And I think in 26, you're going to see a lot more progress. I've been seeing it, like the evolution of this over the past 3 years of how do we bring like almost like a solid state drive or hard drive worth of data into the memory of these agents. And this is something that I think is very important for a lot of these firms that built out data lakes and data warehouses over the past few years and been storing all this data. It's great. It's great to store all this data. It's great to have a Tableau dashboard that shows you what's going on. But what is like the next evolution of this? And to me, it's really like chatting with data and having like a high degree of accuracy over that search, and being able to go search through like terabytes of data that you've from historical that you've been collecting historically. So this is something that's like really exciting from my perspective. So I think in 26 we'll see the breakout of like, oh wow, I just gave it like an entire data room or multiple data rooms, and now I was able to actually get answers from it. And this is something that previously wasn't possible. When ChatGPT first came out, I think everyone was trying to do this. And now we're starting to see, okay, wow, we can actually, give it 100 documents or 1,000 documents. And with a lot of like custom solutions, you can actually get to high degrees of accuracy pulling information from it. So this part's like really exciting. I think we're at like kind of the cusp of it. We're starting to see like what's possible, but going into like Q2, Q3, I think there's gonna be so much innovation on this side, and decided to kind of support it as much as I can.
Yeah. I mean, I'm so excited about that innovation. Like the ability, I think we feel sometimes limited by the context windows. But the way that the things that we're building now just allow you to have access and accuracy of tons of historical data, which is super interesting.
Yeah, I think one of the most important things in 2026 is going to be making use of all the data you've been collecting over the past decade and being able to actually query this type of data, answer questions based on it. This is something that I think is going to be extremely important for firms that are really trying to make data-backed decisions and have historical data to actually influence them. I'm very confident like 2026 is the year that like every company is going to start using agents in one way or another, whether it's at the customer service level, whether it's at the financial prediction level, whether it's legal teams using it. I think through entire organizations, people are going to see what the benefits are from a productivity and throughput perspective by using these tools. And I really recommend that anybody who's listening to this, just go give them a try. Like, the worst thing you'd be doing right now is sitting on the sidelines, being scared of this technology, being scared of how it's going to actually, impact your work. One of the best things you'd be doing right now is just downloading, the crazy thing that your friend in tech told you to go try out a couple weeks ago. Go try it, sign up, go into as many free trials as possible and see what can actually help your workflow. This is the best thing everybody can be doing. And I highly recommend, giving it a shot and seeing how much of your day really can improve by using this technology. If you are not using AI, your competitor is going to be using AI and is going to leapfrog you completely. And something I've talked about publicly previously is that I think that there is this opportunity for like a 10th player in a space. Like, let's use the mortgage industry. I think like the 10th player in the mortgage industry could leapfrog to number 1 or 2 just by going AI native from day 0. And like, hopefully Rocket or any of these big companies are making huge AI pushes. I think I've seen some stuff alongside of that. But if player 2, 3, 4 are not going and leaning in completely into AI, that's something that's very scary and leaves a huge opportunity for competition to go and leapfrog the leaders in the space.
Huge thanks to Adam Silverman for breaking down what he's seeing going into 2026. If you're listening and thinking, I'm behind, well, you're not alone. The good news is the entry point is simple. Try a few tools, focus on automating the busy work first, and make sure you're doing it safely. And the big unlock we kept coming back to, your historical data only becomes an advantage when you can actually query it. If you found this useful, be sure to subscribe to the show and share this episode with a colleague. Adam will be back in future episodes to continue breaking down what's changing in the AI landscape and what that means for PE.